Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. It's hard to believe I find myself here, gazing out the window with a warm cup of tea, the memories of that night vivid as if they happened just yesterday. Yet, certain moments in life etch themselves into your memory so profoundly that, regardless of the passage of time, they stay just as vibrant, just as rich in feeling. At 62, I found myself well beyond the days of pursuing thrills or anticipating the unexpected. At this point in life, you feel like you've experienced everything, particularly after spending almost 2 decades at the same company. My work may not have been flashy, but it provided a sense of security. I served as the executive assistant to Daniel Carter, the CEO of a prominent publishing house in Chicago. He was the type of leader who earned respect, not through demands, but by embodying a calm and confident presence. He maintained a consistent professionalism, exhibiting unwavering control, and never once did he allow the boundaries between business and personal matters to become indistinct. Up until that evening, a straightforward email marked the beginning. "Shall we have dinner this evening? This one's on me. I need to talk to you about something significant." I stared at my screen, going over the message repeatedly. Daniel never invited me to dinner. Indeed, we frequently put in late hours, occasionally opting to have food delivered to the office, but this situation was unlike any other. An invitation was extended. Initially, I felt compelled to refuse. Ultimately, what could be so crucial that it can't be addressed within the confines of the office? Yet, my curiosity proved too strong, and before I could second-guess myself, my fingers were already dancing across the keyboard in response. "Absolutely. When and where?" His reply arrived in no time at all. 7 o'clock in the evening. La Belle Vale. I blinked. La Belle Vale was more than just a restaurant. It stood out as one of the most refined and cozy spots in the city. Tables aglow with candlelight, a pianist serenading in the corner with gentle jazz, and a menu so rare that reservations were required weeks ahead. A peculiar, anxious sensation churned in my stomach as I gathered my belongings that evening. Was this related to work? A promotion, you say? No, that was unclear. I had reached the pinnacle of my craft. Perhaps a proposal for retirement. But then, what's the appeal of dining at a venue like that? When I finally reached the restaurant, my heart raced more intensely than it ought to have for an ordinary meal. The hostess guided me to a quiet table by the window, where Daniel was already seated. He remained upright as I drew near, his familiar sharp suit intact, yet there was an unmistakable change in his demeanor. A nearly frenetic vitality accompanied his movements as he adjusted his cufflinks and tidied his tie. "You look lovely tonight," he said as I settled into my chair. I chuckled softly, dismissing the praise with a wave of my hand. "Thanks a lot. I really hope this isn't regarding my quarterly reports, as I was looking forward to a break from spreadsheets tonight." He let out a soft laugh, yet there was a gentle glow in his eyes that I had overlooked until now. "No, it's not related to work. Not completely, at least." The waiter approached with the wine, and before I had the chance to speak, Daniel had already placed an order for a bottle of my beloved Chateau Margaux. My stomach churned. How could he possibly know that? The dialogue began on a cheerful note, brimming with effortless chuckles and anecdotes from the workplace. Yet, as the evening unfolded, I sensed a change in the atmosphere surrounding us. A tension that eluded my understanding. At last, once the plates had been removed, he leaned in a bit, his voice dropping to a softer tone. "I have a question for you, and I hope you don't feel any pressure about it. I seek your candid response." I paused, a silent agreement passing through me. I will be stepping away from my professional journey at the close of this year. My heart plummeted. I collaborated with Daniel for 20 years. He was more than just a superior to me. He was a companion of mine. The thought of his departure created an unsettling emptiness within me. "However, that isn't the reason I summoned you here." He halted, examining me intently. "For the past few years, I've been contemplating what life will be like once I step away, and the deeper I delve into those thoughts, the clearer it becomes that there's someone I wish to carry with me as I leave that office behind. A lump began to rise in my throat. Daniel. He extended his hand toward me, his fingers radiating warmth as they brushed against mine. My feelings for you, Evelyn, go beyond mere admiration. Your well-being is important to me, perhaps more than is advisable. He released a gentle laugh, shaking his head slightly. I kept silent until now, as I was hesitant to overstep that boundary. As I gaze into the future, it becomes clear that I cannot envision those years without you by my side. Thoughts whirled in a chaotic dance. This individual held the position of my superior. My composed, professional, always appropriate superior. He sat opposite me, expressing his feelings and letting me know how much I meant to him. I understand this might come as a surprise, he said softly, holding my hand with a tender grip, and I realize you may have never viewed me in that light. However, I felt it was important to share this with you. If there's even the slightest possibility that you might share these feelings, perhaps we can stop pretending that our connection is purely professional. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. I had reached the age of 62. For quite a while, the idea of romance had not crossed my mind. Following my divorce, I immersed myself in my work, believing that those aspects of life were now in the past. As I sat here, gazing into the eyes of a man who had stood by me for 2 decades, a realization dawned on me. I was utterly taken aback. I was more than just flattered. Fear gripped me, because buried within a part of me I had yet to confront. I understood he wasn't the sole actor in this long-standing charade. I fixed my gaze on Daniel, my heart racing wildly within me. The environment enveloped us, feeling increasingly confined. There were no clinking glasses, no soft whispers in the air, only the heavy burden of his words resting upon me. My feelings for you run deeper than they perhaps ought to. I took a deep breath, my fingers quivering beneath his caress. What was I meant to say in response to something like this? Daniel, you don't need to say a word at this moment, he said softly, his gaze brimming with empathy. Evelyn, I've held this in for far too long, and I can't let another moment slip by without sharing it with you. Moments. That word loomed large between us. At 62, I was not a woman who indulged in fantasies of grand romances or whirlwind affairs. My life had found a cadence, familiar, unwavering, secure. In the heart of a refined restaurant, the man I had collaborated with for 20 years was presenting me with a proposition that had the potential to alter the course of everything. I withdrew my hand, craving a moment to gather my thoughts. Daniel, I never considered you in that light. You have consistently held the roles of both my superior and my companion. He acknowledged, a faint, nearly melancholic smile gracing his lips. Perhaps I should take responsibility for that. Perhaps I should have allowed you to perceive me in a different light much earlier. I let out a soft sigh, my fingers instinctively reaching for the wine glass, seeking a distraction for my restless hands. You surprised me. This is quite overwhelming. I comprehend. He nodded, remaining patient, neither pushing nor demanding, simply biding his time. However, I must ask you this, Evelyn. When you reflect on your life beyond your job, do you ever consider your own identity? What is it that you desire? Or have you merely come to terms with the idea that this is all there is? His words pierced through me, not due to their harshness, but because of their undeniable truth. When was the last time I reflected on my own happiness, my own desires? My marriage concluded more than 15 years ago, not through a dramatic betrayal, but through a gradual, silent separation. My former spouse found a new partner within 2 years, while I immersed myself in my career, convincing myself that I was okay, that I didn't require anything beyond what I possessed. For the first time in years, someone was inquiring about my desires. I confessed, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Daniel reclined in his chair, observing me intently. Perhaps it's the moment to discover. I let out a slow breath, gently shaking my head. What if I discover that I'm not prepared for this? What if I'm simply unable to? His lips formed a smile that hinted at understanding. In that case, I will agree to that. Yet, I have a feeling that what you uncover may be quite different. The waiter approached with the bill, and before I could even make a move for my purse, Daniel had already taken care of it. As we prepared to depart, he rested his hand gently on the small of my back, a touch that was light, warm, and reassuring, coursed an unforeseen thrill through my being. "I don't want an answer tonight," he said softly as we stepped outside into the crisp Chicago air. "Please take a moment to consider it." I nodded, still enveloped in a haze of confusion. "I shall." He smiled, his eyes lingering on mine for a moment that felt just a bit too long. "Sweet dreams, Evelyn. Sleep well, Daniel." That night, slumber eluded me. I reclined in bed, gazing at the ceiling, reliving each moment of dinner. The intensity of his gaze, the gentle lilt in his voice as he uttered my name, the treachery of my own body, the rapid beat of my heart at the brush of his hand against mine, the unconscious lean I took towards him, drawn in by an unseen force. Had I genuinely never considered him from that perspective? Or had I merely concealed it so profoundly that I chose to ignore its existence? The following morning, I reached the office ahead of time, seeking a brief moment to gather my thoughts before confronting him. However, the moment I entered, it became clear that such a thing was out of reach. A solitary red rose rested on my desk, its petals glistening with the remnants of morning dew. No note, no elaboration needed. A quiet note, patiently awaiting my reply. The rose lingered, fragile yet undeniably captivating. My fingers lingered just above its petals, yet I refrained from making contact. I was aware of who had abandoned it. I already knew without needing a note. I took a deep breath, placed my bag on the ground, and settled into my chair. That morning, my office had an unusual atmosphere, imbued with an indefinable energy. The familiar routine that once provided solace now seemed to waver, leaving me feeling unbalanced. "Daniel." The echoes of his words from the previous night lingered in my mind. "Have you ever contemplated your own existence? What is it that you desire?" For countless years, I was firmly convinced that I required nothing beyond what I already possessed. My autonomy, my profession, my thoughtfully cultivated solitude. And yet, there I stood, gazing at a solitary rose, a sensation awakening within me. A familiar knock at my office door pulled me from my reverie. "Good morning." His voice exuded warmth and steadiness. I turned, and there he stood, Daniel, framed in the doorway, his expression a mystery. "Good morning," I responded, my tone gentler than I had meant it to be. He entered the room, gently shutting the door behind him. "Have you received my gift?" My eyes returned to the rose. I certainly did. He inclined his head ever so slightly. I exhaled slowly, my hands coming to rest in my lap. "I'm not sure what you want me to respond with, Daniel." He offered a faint smile as he settled into the seat opposite me. "I hold no expectations, Evelyn. I'm curious about your thoughts right now." I paused. "Honestly, it seems as though everything in my life shifted dramatically last night. For 2 decades, I have regarded you as both my superior and my companion. And all at once, you're requesting that I perceive you in a new light." He nodded, his eyes unwavering. "Is that really a negative aspect?" I parted my lips to respond, yet silence enveloped me. The reality was, I was uncertain. Daniel leaned in a bit, his elbows propped on his knees. "I wish to avoid causing you any discomfort, Evelyn. That's the very last thing I would ever desire. Yet, I cannot feign indifference to these emotions. Not any longer." I took a deep breath. "What is this, Daniel? What exactly are you inquiring about?" His demeanor became gentler. "Opportunity. An opportunity for you to explore whether there might be something of interest here. If perhaps, just perhaps, you might share the same feelings." I turned my gaze, focusing on the bustling cityscape outside the window. The skyline unfolded before me, known yet suddenly brimming with opportunities one had never imagined. Am I truly capable of this? Am I willing to embrace the uncertainty? "I'm not sure," I confessed, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "I'm uncertain if I can simply alter my perception of you." Daniel appeared unfazed. He appeared calm and empathetic, exuding a sense of patience. So, just let it flow naturally. Allow it to unfold in its own way. I glanced back at him, my fingers intertwining nervously. And if it doesn't, he smiled, a true heartfelt smile. I will remain here, regardless of the circumstances. I breathed out, sensing a bit of the heaviness in my chest begin to lift. That's a perilous vow, Daniel. His eyes sparkled, hesitant to embrace my risks. Throughout the day, the conversation lingered in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. I anticipated that the atmosphere would be uncomfortable and strained. Yet they were not. Daniel continued on as though everything remained the same. He refrained from pushing. He maintained his distance. And yet I sensed it. Each time he walked by my office. Each time our gazes locked over the conference table. Each time he spoke my name, there was a subtle warmth in his tone. As the day drew to a close, I found myself drained, not due to my tasks, but because of the whirlwind of my own reflections. As I collected my belongings to depart, my phone vibrated with a notification. Daniel, it's time for dinner. Only dinner. Take your time. What are your thoughts? I paused, my thumb lingering just above the screen. I might decline. I could maintain the status quo, secure and familiar. Or I might venture into uncharted territory. My heart raced as I crafted my reply. Where am I supposed to be and at what time? The restaurant exuded a serene ambience, softly illuminated, with the gentle murmur of dialogue weaving through the atmosphere. I settled at the table, my fingers gently clasping the stem of my wine glass, observing the dance of the candlelight. Daniel sat opposite me, at ease, his eyes unwavering as ever. He concealed any signs of nervousness effortlessly. However, I had devoted the whole day to convincing myself not to show up. And yet, here I found myself, seated opposite the man who had been my superior for 20 years, now perceiving him in a manner I had never experienced before. I appreciate your agreement, Daniel expressed, his tone inviting. A subtle smile graced my lips. I nearly didn't. He let out a soft laugh. I assumed as much. I exhaled softly, adjusting my position in the chair. This situation has me at a loss, Daniel. I'm unsure how to begin perceiving you in a new light. He inclined his head slightly, savoring a sip of his beverage. I'm not requesting that you do. I simply hoped for a smooth evening. Merely a pair of individuals sharing a meal together. I observed him closely. He presented it in such an uncomplicated way. Yet, everything about this seemed anything but straightforward to me. As the evening unfolded, I discovered a sense of ease washing over me. We shared conversations about our jobs, reminisced about old tales from the past, and exchanged amusing anecdotes that brought laughter. Felt instinctive. At a certain moment, Daniel reclined in his chair, observing me intently. I overlooked this, he remarked. I raised an eyebrow. What did I overlook? Observing you in this state. You consistently maintain a serious demeanor at work, diligently looking after everything and everyone. In this moment, it's simply you being yourself. I blinked, taken aback by his words. I couldn't recall the last occasion when someone had truly gazed at me in that way. A sudden flutter stirred within my chest, an unfamiliar and unexpected sensation. Following our meal, we stepped outside, the refreshing evening breeze enveloping us. Just as I was reaching for my phone to call a cab, Daniel's voice broke through the moment. I'd be happy to take you home. I paused. It seemed like a boundary I ought to respect. Yet, after a brief pause, I acquiesced with a nod. The journey was serene and pleasant. As we arrived at my house, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. As he shifted the car into park, I turned to him, my mind racing for the perfect words to say. Daniel. He extended his arm, softly grasping my hand. His touch radiated warmth, a steady presence. No need to say a word, Edlin. I gulped. However, I certainly do. I'm uncertain about the appropriate placement for this. I'm uncertain if I can provide what you seek. His thumb glided softly across my fingers. Let's take our time. Let's proceed gradually, step by step. I exhaled unsteadily, my heart racing. It seems effortless when you put it that way. He offered a gentle smile. It is only fitting that it should be. I gazed at him, then truly gazed at him. For the first time, I allowed myself to ponder. What if? Perhaps this isn't the conclusion of anything. Perhaps, just perhaps, this marked the start of something new. I gently grasped his hand before letting go, my fingers moving toward the door handle. Sleep well, Daniel. He observed me with an unwavering calmness. Sleep well, Edlin. As I exited and made my way to my front door, the warmth of his touch still lingered on my skin. For the first time in ages, I experienced something different as well. Anticipation.